Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes of all teenagers, welcome! We're back! We're doing some more Fallout, finally! I'm refreshed, I'm energized, and we are continuing with our Boston Airport build. I am also currently working on getting all of the notifications out, so let me finish with that. Alright, Twitter and YouTube have been notified. So we should be good there. I just came off of watching the first episode of Batman Caped Crusader, which is why we are significantly later than I would like to be. And I've got thoughts on the show, but we'll get into those in a bit. Let me actually get the game. Let me get the game open before I start talking about things I don't like. Spoilers. I don't like the first episode of the show. I've got 7 pages of notes detailing why, which is again why it took us more than the episode length to watch the episode. The saving grace of the show so far is that each episode is only about half an hour long, which is better than I expected. There we go. Significantly better than I expected. Alright, let's go ahead and switch the game over to our boy Fallout. Please. There we go. Wonderful. Wonderful. Alright, we're going to close that. And we continue at Boston Airport. Finally. Finally. We're back. We're doing more. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, but yeah, I've got thoughts about Batman Caped Crusader. I'm not very happy with the show. I've got 7 pages worth of thoughts, but I will try to condense what I have to say. I know we've got 3 hours. I can definitely talk about the show. But we'll get into that in a bit, I guess. Yeah, there we go. We're loaded in, and look at that. It didn't take us 10 minutes to load in. Okay, so before we actually do the build, let me show you around Boston Airport. For those of you who are familiar with the game, this looks very different from the way that it should, for a multitude of reasons. One, the Brotherhood of Steel are still around because I did not kill them off, because one of the missions, one of the mods that I picked up, allows me to both make sure that Paladin Dance stays in the Brotherhood even after everything is revealed by killing off Elder Maxon. And it allows me the opportunity to become the Elder of the Brotherhood. So I'm the General of the Minutemen, the Elder of the Brotherhood, and a heavy for the Railroad by the end of the game. And it's kind of the best possible option you could go for because none of your important factions are fighting each other. As the Elder of the Brotherhood, you can make sure that the Railroad are not enemies, the Minutemen are not enemies, and that they do not attack. Attack Acadia in Far Harbor. So, like, there's kind of not a better position to be in. But because the Brotherhood are still here, Boston Airport needed to, be a functioning structure still. I thought it was a little strange that Boston Airport was a destroyed structure. Especially given the fact that the remains of the structure that we did see were all like heavy-duty concrete building pieces. So the fact that the building was gone, I don't know, seemed a bit strange to me. So another mod I downloaded went ahead and rebuilt the actual Boston Airport and made it something that we can build entirely inside of. Yet another mod makes it so that Boston Airport can actually support, food and water resources. So if I want settlers to live here, they can. And then yet another mod again expands the total build area for Boston Airport, and I'll show you guys that in a bit. But let me show you the little bit that I did do. This was a long time ago that I did this. In fact, before we started Jamaica Plain, I went ahead and I did this because I was considering, okay, do I want to do Boston Airport or do I want to do Jamaica Plain? Jamaica Plain obviously is what we went with, but I cleared out the interior of the terminal here at Boston Airport so that we've got a nice open build space to work with, and most of that junk, if not all of it, will be in the in that workshop space right there. We've got a police protectron that's just walking around because apparently there was one here earlier. And this is a 2-floor structure. The only things that I didn't clear out were the chairs sitting here on the side. I kind of like them. I like the idea that those stay here. But my plan for Boston Airport, given that this is also the headquarters of the Brotherhood of Steel, and let me go ahead and take all of these objects, please. Given that this is also the headquarters of the Brotherhood of Steel, the Brotherhood of Steel, not the Brother of Steel. The Brother of Steel would be what? Aluminum? I don't know. The Brotherhood of Steel. I thought, what better thing to make this than to make this the embassy between the Commonwealth and the capital Wasteland? Because, you know, if we're going to expand, if we're going to go ahead and expand the influential reach of the Commonwealth, why not have an embassy here? So this is basically going to be that. It's going to be the Brotherhood headquarters and the embassy between the Commonwealth and the NCPG and the capital Wasteland under the Brotherhood control. I don't know necessarily all of the details of how we're going to do that, but that is the plan. So we'll see. And that was a lot of yapping for very little detail, but let me go ahead and actually jump into the build menu so I can show you guys all of the space that we have. I don't know how much building we're going to be getting done today because I kind of just want to intro you guys to what we're going to be working with, but there's a lot of space, a lot more space than you would think. So as you can see, we're outside of the actual terminal and we're still able to interact with things. The only place we cannot go into the parking structure, which is a bit annoying. I would have liked to go into the parking structure if we could have. We can go all the way out this way. That's for a different mod. All the way out here. Stops right there. We can go very far back this direction. And of course, we can go actually into the little Brotherhood location here. Now, I'm probably not going to do too much with this interior here, because if this Brotherhood checkpoint is here, I'd kind of like to keep it. You know, they do a lot of their work here. This is already a very well detailed location that that was created for the base game. I do think that Bethesda did an actually pretty good job with all of this stuff. The only thing I would likely change is I would put in Minutemen flags and a US flag as well to signify that it's part of the greater Commonwealth. It's part of the NCPG as a whole. But I mean, the rest of this is just really well done stuff. Let's go ahead and get rid of that floating wood crate. Don't know why that's there. Doesn't need to be. And we've got a lot of invisible NPC markers, as you can see. So yeah, I don't want to do too much with the interior space here. It wouldn't be the easiest to work with. And a lot of things I would like to delete are non-reference AV objects, which means they can't actually be interacted with because they are part of the game world itself, as opposed to being a scrappable object like these. There we go, wild potato blossom. Yeah. You can't really get rid of the trash as much as I want to. But we have a massive amount of build space here. Yeah, I was never a big fan of the fact that the airport was just kind of a broken building. I know the concern of, okay, well, you know, what about how, like, why don't we, what am I trying to say here? What if a plane was trying to land and it can't because all of its instruments are messed up and it hits the place? Okay, well, because this is piloting in the 1950s, 1950s and 60s, what I can tell you is that while instruments were definitely relied upon, Instruments were secondary in their importance to a pilot's instincts specifically, which means the pilot and co-pilot and anyone else that might be inside of the cockpit itself would all have to be unavailable for a plane to actually effectively crash into a dangerous location, which is likely why we don't see a lot of a lot of downed airplanes in the city proper. And the downed airplanes that we do see are in the outskirts and more in the wilderness locations, because pilots, even if they couldn't keep their plane from crashing, they could more times than not direct where it was going to have to make an emergency landing, and do so to the best of their ability at the very least. But they did not have the key component there is they did not have an over-reliance on instruments over the instincts of the pilot. It was a very important difference to be made there. But if this is going to be an embassy building, we need to go ahead and decorate it like such, which means we need to make this essentially a big propaganda location for the new Commonwealth Provisional Government, as well as a great sort of tourist attraction to go ahead and promote both the NCPG and the Capital Wasteland. So I think the second floor here, we're going to turn this into the Capital Wasteland stuff. I don't know how necessarily we're going to do that, but I'm sure we can figure something out. And then the first floor, this is going to be the embassy space itself. Yeah. And then with all of the extra space out here, we can do all kinds of other stuff, hopefully. Certainly like to. There's so many things I can't remove, though, you know? Like, I want to remove these bushes, but it will only let me remove the sidewalk. I can't even click on the, oh, hold on. Can I? Nope. Okay. It's not going to let me do a lot here. So we are very limited with what we can do. But it is a smaller build in general, so I don't expect it to take, I don't know, 50 episodes like Jamaica Plains did. It will take time, but it won't take 50 episodes worth of time, hopefully. Hopefully. That's nice. I can get rid of the vines, at least. Alright. Another plus, the interior is entirely lit. I don't have to worry about placing lights for this main structure. The interior is entirely lit. All I need to do is, you know, make sure we've got water and food stuff, but that's not a problem. It's really not a concern. In comparison, that's no problem whatsoever. And I probably won't be doing too much with Snappy Build. Probably. We'll see. We'll see. What I would like to know is which direction is north. North is this way, which means the entire terminal is not on the XY axis properly, which means building is going to be a little bit more involved for us if we're going to get things done here, but that's okay. That's okay. It's been worse for us before. It's certainly been worse for us before. One thing we probably could do with a lot of the more open space that we have here is we could turn this into sort of a bit of housing for the Brotherhood members stationed on the ground instead of up in the Pridwin. Yeah, we could have some housing. That would be interesting. Yeah, actually could be quite solid. You know what? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll go ahead and make it a built-up area so that we can get around a lot of the issues that we have with these bushes. And we'll work from there. I'm actually kind of happy about that. That will work very nicely. All right, let's jump back into the build menu. I want to show you just how quickly we can jump into it in comparison to the other crap we have to deal with. It would take us a good, see? It would take us a good 2 minutes on a good day in Jamaica Plains. Or Jamaica Plain. I know that the entire time I was building, I said Jamaica Plains. It's Jamaica Plain. Is Jamaica Plain singular, not plains plural? It just sounds better as a plural than a singular. There's not really much else to it. Yeah, if I could, I would just delete the trees here. But oh well, we're stuck with them. All right, let's go. Landscaping, retaining walls here. I'm gonna place you, get you into position. Oh, that's right. There we go. Now God mode is enabled. All right, I want to mod angle Z1. Oh, that's basically on point. All right, we're going to start from here. We're not necessarily going to build things out this far back. Hold on. But we're starting there because this is a corner piece that we can work with. It can be a very functional corner piece. Then what we'll actually do is we'll remove you, place you there, then come in there with you, put in our corner, of course, and move across this axis here a solid distance, as far as we can, really. All right, we're going to continue with this, basically, like, the big thing I'm working on today is going to be setting up going to be doing some landscaping, basically. I was gonna try and make it sound more impressive. No, we're doing landscaping. That's my main thing right now. Alright, well, while I figure this out, I might as well start talking about the first episode of Batman Caped Crusader. So first and foremost, I've made this complaint several times. Actually, you know what? No, I'll answer your question first, Ranger Bravo. My day is fine. It's been busy, but my day has been fine. You know, nothing too crazy. No major complaints. I mean, I did have to watch Batman Caped Crusader, but that's a self-inflicted wound. That's not on anyone else. That one's on me. But like I was saying, the first thing I have to say about the show is the show should be called, if you're going to title it anything regarding Caped Crusader, it should be The Caped Crusader, not just Caped Crusader. Again, it's a title given to Batman. It isn't an entity in and of itself, you know? It's not like there are multiple Caped Crusaders. I hope that's not the direction the show is trying to go in, because that would be really stupid and a massive bait and switch maneuver, which is not impossible. This is a J.J. Abrams show. He basically invented the modern mystery box. So it would not be it's not the most unlikely scenario for him to go ahead and decide, yeah, I'm actually messing with you. This is the direction we're going in with this. But beyond that, my complaints with the show are significantly more substantive than just that. I am not personally the biggest fan of the voice that they chose for Batman. I think that if you're going to voice Batman, you should, well, if you're going to voice any character, really, you should make the character actually sound as if they're interested in what it is that they do. And Batman in this show does not sound interested in being Batman. I don't mean that, you know, Batman is kind of moody in the show. That's fine. If Batman were moody or a bit dour, a bit more of a sad character, then you know, the comic book figure with a big impactful voice, that's fine. That's fine. He doesn't need to be that. He needs to actually just care about what he's doing. And so far he doesn't. The version of Batman that we're given doesn't actually seem like they're interested in the work that they do, which is not great. You kind of want Batman to be interested in what he does. Otherwise, why is he doing any of it? Which was just a bit annoying for me personally. Like, I can live and kind of have to live with the fact that Kevin Conroy isn't going to be the voice of Batman ever again. But I was hoping, at the very least, that Hamish Linklater, who's a perfectly fine actor, I've got no problems with him as an actor, his Batman is extremely just depressingly sad. Not really interested in what they do. And part of me wonders if that's just the voice direction that he was given. It wouldn't be a massive surprise if that were the case, if he was just told, hey, this is the voice we want you to do. But it's not. It's not the version. It's not like, you know. So a slight tangent. Matt Reeves, the guy behind the Batman movie from 2022, he's involved in this project to some capacity. He's an executive producer, and how much that actually means he's involved is, you know, is debatable, because depending on what you mean, executive producer could be the most important role in the world. It could also be the least important thing ever, depending on the movie, the series, the whatever it happens to be. But I can see certain elements that they're trying to say this is like the Batman from the movie. But in the movie, he's like genuinely depressed as a figure. It's not that he's not interested in what he's doing. It's that that's the only thing he's interested in doing. The only thing that Robert Pattinson's Batman is interested in doing is being Batman, because he has a vendetta. He has a vendetta to go ahead and enact, and he's searching for vengeance at the start of the movie. That's entirely different than what we're getting here with than what we're getting here with Hamish Linklater's Batman, who just sounds completely uninterested in living, let alone doing the work of Batman. Which is weird, because the actions that Batman takes as Batman are very Batman actions, which is one point I will give to the show. Batman does mostly act like Batman in this show. Okay, that's more than I was expecting. I was certainly not expecting Batman to act like Batman in the show. I am, however, not happy with the fact that in the show, we're getting into spoilers, so if you really care, don't watch this VOD until you've seen the first episode of the show. Whatever. This version of Batman at multiple times commits murder and manslaughter and does not care about any of it. No reaction whatsoever. Nothing. Of course, the justification for this is going to be, well, when Batman first appeared in the comics, Batman did kill. Batman was a very dark noir figure. Okay, fine. That's a good argument. If anybody wanted to, like, if the vast majority of fans actually wanted Batman to kill, Batman would kill on a regular basis. That would sell comics, all kinds of things. If that's actually what the vast majority of fans wanted. However, it's not what basically any fan wants, and every other piece of Batman media that has ever tried to make Batman a killer has come under major fire for doing so, because even if that was part of Batman's origin, it is not part of Batman's DNA as a character, and contradicts the very reason Batman exists and acts in the way that they do. So why would you continue to do that thing? Now, I do know this show is trying to go for the 1940s version of Batman, so okay, they could have justified him allowing deaths, but this version of Batman basically says nothing. So we don't have a justification for his actions. There's nothing, like, he doesn't offer a defense for himself. The writers haven't written a defensible position, so the only thing you're left to take is he just does it or allows it to happen and has no emotion about it whatsoever. Which doesn't make them seem like Batman, that makes them seem like the villain. Which is part of why Batman stopped killing in the comics anyway. Of course, there's the external reason of, well, the publishers saw that a lot of kids were reading these, and telling kids that it's likely okay to kill your bully is probably not a good thing to do. And Bob Kane and Bill Finger were like, yes, and also, we've received letters, mostly Bob Kane at this point, because Bill Finger was given no credit, I know. Bill Finger was definitely still involved at this point, that's a tangent. They were receiving letters that, okay, well, if Batman's origin is this, that that his parents were killed in a mugging, they were shot right in front of him, why would he carry around a gun? Why would he be okay with killing people if he's trying to go ahead and avenge their deaths? If he's trying to go ahead and set a new example, why would he do the same thing? And the response to those letters was like, you know what, you're right, that is a bad idea. Good thing that you and our publishers have the same idea for different reasons, because what that means is I can justify both decisions either way. And ever since then, fans, the vast majority of fans, in fact, the ones that I would consider true fans, and yes, I'm more than happy to gatekeep fandom if it means that we get consistently good things, fans of Batman have always understood why Batman doesn't kill, even if they do not personally agree with it. And to change that aspect of Batman is to change Batman as a character into a character that they aren't. Which is kind of just stupid. You're making a Batman show. Why does Batman not act like Batman? Why is Batman not acting like Batman if it's a Batman show? You know, questions that should be very easily answered, but the show's not going to really give me an explanation. Other than, well, you know, this is, again, ooh, but it's noir. Just saying that something is noir because black and white is used, or because jazz music is used, or because a character is okay with death, that doesn't actually make it noir. It doesn't actually mean anything when you say it. Like, you can't just say something is noir because it's in black and white, right? Does that make sense to anybody else? I hope that makes sense. I've got a video I have to make tonight about this topic, actually. Alright, trying to line these up here. My next concern, of course, is that the show tries to be episodic and serialized in nature. I can tell already, only having seen one episode, I can tell what elements are going to be carried over into a serialized story. And I can tell that this show is not going to be episodic, where you can just jump in for one episode, jump out, not watch most of the rest of the show, jump in for another episode, and get a complete story. A serialized show is where a set of episodes tells a story in its entirety, and an episodic show is where each episode is its own individual story. Where shows like Batman the Animated Series, or Superman, or Batman, or New Batman Adventures, or, you know, most of the DCAU, they were episodic shows that had serialized elements. So each individual episode, or pair of episodes, if it was a two-parter or three-parter, each individual episode was its own complete story and could be seen without the context of any other episode, and you would still understand what's going on. You would still get a complete look at the characters, and everyone would still act appropriately without the context of extra things happening. And a serialized show is where the actions of previous episodes affect the way that things happen in future episodes. Well, the DCAU took an approach that actually works pretty well, where the episodes themselves, each individual episode, can be seen as its own thing, enjoyed separately, and be a complete story. But individual elements will be carried forward, whether choices that characters make, consequences that have happened to certain characters, like how Two-Face is Two-Face in certain episodes, and Harvey Dent in other episodes that happen earlier. Or, you know, all sorts of different things. But this show tries to, if it wants to go the route of being noir, of being more Batman the Animated Series than Batman the Animated Series, which is something that one of its creators, Bruce Timm, did say, if it wants to be more of the good show than the good show, then it needs to act like the good show. This doesn't act like the good show. It has none of the characterization that we loved from the good show is present in this one. And none of the story elements are present in this one, and I don't know. It's a bad marketing tool, really. I was always very certain it wasn't going to end up the way that they had continued to say that it would. But I was really hoping that it wouldn't be, you know, as blatantly just not the thing that they promised it would be. As it ended up being. And that probably sounds like a nonsensical statement, a completely nonsensical sentence that I just said, and I'm sure in some aspects it is, because I'm trying to focus on both of these things at once. But yeah, the episode of the story, like the story beats itself, are okay. Definitely could be better. By no doubt the episodes themselves, or the episode, the first episode, because I have only seen the first one. The first episode could be a lot more cohesive and coherent. The choices that characters make could make more sense. And could actually, could actually inform us about the kind of character that we're running into. For instance, and this is another thing that I'm really not a fan of. This is one thing I'm not a really big fan of, and I'll get into why, because I know how it will sound when I say it. But just let me talk here. I am not a fan of the choices they made for the Penguin, who I was more than happy to see Penguin as a major player in this story. That can be great. Penguin can be a great villain, and is one of my favorite Batman villains. If you're telling an early Batman story, Penguin is a great mob character to have. Absolutely. Penguin is probably one of the better characters of Arkham Origins, which is largely mob-focused. At least it's presented as a mob-focused story and has a lot of elements that are mob-focused and all kinds of stuff. And a majority of the enemies that you'll run into that you actually have to fight are mob-related enemies. But what they did with the Penguin in this one, let me force the weather. What they did with Penguin here is they decided that Penguin was a woman named Oswalda Cobblepot, and the entire internet's reaction is Oswalda sounds like a fake name. Now, Oswalda is a flower, but that is by no means the reason that the name was chosen, because Penguin is very bird-focused, as one might assume. So Oswalda doesn't make sense for a name for a bird-focused character. You might think, hey, yeah, Oswald doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the name of a bird-focused character. Fair enough. But if you're going to change the name of the Penguin, if you're going to change the character's name, make it something that makes sense for a bird-focused character. Play in to the serialized noir storytelling where characters' names are attributes of who they are as a person. Do that. But you didn't. Oswalda Cobblepot is really hard to look at. Really hard to look at. It's bad. Like, it looks like someone dressing up in drag as the Penguin. That I know that's not what they're going for. I know that this isn't a drag performer dressing as Penguin. Like, Oswalda is actually a woman in the show, but the outfits that she's wearing and the characterization that we're given makes Oswalda seem like a drag performer, and it just comes off as weird. It just doesn't really fit in with the tone of the rest of the show. Yeah, it just doesn't work. It just, again, it's an element of the show that doesn't work, and there's no good reason that you couldn't have there's no good reason that Penguin couldn't have worked in this show. Okay, we need... We need you. Also, we are. It's another problem we run into is the show don't tell problem. Except we're only ever told things about Penguin. We're not really shown things about Penguin. We are told that Oswalda is a criminal mastermind and has been running circles around the GCPD for months, or for years. I'll have to go check my notes for which one's which. But what we see is someone who's about as capable as any of the other mobsters that we've run into, but we're told that they're smarter, stronger, more more clever, and more well-equipped than any of the other mob organizations, and certainly more so than the police, without any evidence to do so. This is the problem with one of the major problems with modern writing. Instead of showing us that a character is something, you're telling us this, and then when we are concerned about actions the character is taking, you say, well, I told you this was the character, but you didn't show us that they're capable of doing this. Rey would probably not have been a difficult character for people to watch in the Star Wars sequel movies if we didn't hear about, we weren't told Rey was a great character. If we were shown that Rey was a great character, if we were shown that they were capable, if we were shown that they actually had to learn things and that they struggled and failed and actually weren't just amazing at everything that they did, it probably would have been an easier character for us to watch. And by us, I mean the audience as a whole, not necessarily just myself, although myself definitely included in that statement. It wouldn't have been as difficult. It certainly would not have been as difficult for me to go ahead and handle. That's for sure. But the beauty of a character like a Rey is that the creatives get the opportunity to say, well, you just don't like this character because of X, Y, or Z reason. They can go ahead and say, well, you're actually not a fan because this person is a thing you don't like. And that's not it at all, but they can claim it's that, and they can more or less get away with whatever it is that they want to by making those kinds of statements. For instance, you could say, the average, I have been on YouTube for 5 minutes, but I've been on social media for 5 minutes, but people people who I like have the opinion that this show is good, so the show must be good. The argument they can present is, oh, well, you're just, sexist. You don't want a female penguin because you're just sexist. Well, no, I don't want a female penguin because the penguin isn't a woman. Oh, okay, well, why does it matter that the penguin is characterized a certain way? It matters that the penguin is characterized a certain way because if you're not going to change any of the other parts of the character, if they're still going to be a criminal mastermind, if they're still going to run the Iceberg Lounge, if they're still going to, have a mafia behind them, if they're still going to have the umbrella, if they're still going to act and present themselves in every way that Penguin will, except the one change you made is this change to their core person, what was the point of making that change? Of course, the argument could be, well, creative freedom. We wanted to go a different direction. Well, if that direction actually has, any creative benefits to it, I could understand going that direction. But you haven't made any creative choices with this direction. You've just decided to go this direction, but have everything else remain the same, which means that this was not an important choice to make, so why did it have to be made? The reasoning doesn't hold up. Either the choice is a superficial choice and doesn't actually impact the story whatsoever, or the choice is a superficial choice and doesn't impact the story whatsoever. In either case, you're not really giving a good reason to change the sex or you're not giving a good reason to change the sex or racial makeup or background of a character if they're going to act like the same person would, but this one element is changed. You haven't actually contributed anything. You've only done this because you feel you need to make a certain change to a character. And that's not a good reason to make any change to a character ever. It's never been a good reason, maybe ever, to make any character changes. Why did you make this change? Well, I felt like I kind of needed to. That doesn't explain why they do the actions that they do. or why they don't make any unique why they don't make any individual choices that would befit this kind of character. You're right, it doesn't. So I didn't really have a reason to make this change. Now, the show also tries to tell you that Oswalda Cobblepot is considered very attractive to a certain crowd because she's a cabaret singer. When realistically, every time I look at Oswalda Cobblepot, all I can think of is, you look like the Penguin in drag. I cannot take you seriously as a person, let alone genuinely believe that any of the characters around you are actually are actually attracted to you as a character. And that's not anything against, women who might be larger. That's not anything against women who might be cabaret singers. That is specifically the show, again, telling you rather than showing you, and doing a very poor job when it tries to show you something, because it just wants you to believe something without actually building anything into it. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Now, of course, there's a large group of people out there who will say, why does any of this matter to you? And that is a good question. Why does any of this matter to me? It matters to me because if you're going to adapt Batman properly, if you're going to make a Batman show, you need to do so properly. You can make some different interesting choices. There are lots of creative freedoms that can be found, for sure. But the characters still need to intrinsically be the characters that you're looking for. Otherwise, it's no longer a Batman show. It's now a show that happens to have a character you're calling Batman in it. And this show is largely not a Batman show. Over the course of the 25 minutes, we got maybe a third, approaching half of the runtime was Batman stuff, but all of the major story elements happened without Batman in this episode. Or without Bruce Wayne, even. It was mostly all of the side characters who did anything important. So why would you name it Batman Caped Crusader? Again, it comes into the problem it comes into the larger problem that is, just stealing the identity of a show for the sake of pushing a specific message. That's the concern that I have of this show going this direction. To your point, Ranger Bravo, yeah, it is lore breaking, absolutely, but an argument that can be brought up is, well, it's not lore breaking because this is a new show. It's not the show you're talking about. It's a new show, and technically, okay, fine. Technically, that's correct. I understand that, and I'll grant that is, in essence, correct, because this is a different show than the show this is a different show than Batman the Animated Series. But it should, if your marketing was more Batman the Animated Series than Batman the Animated Series, you cannot stop people from going ahead and going ahead and comparing it to Batman the Animated Series if you yourself use it as a marketing tool. It's just the way that it works. If your marketing is this is better than the thing that you love, then it better compare to the thing that you love, or you were just lied to. There are all kinds of other character choices, other versions of Batman and other versions of Batman characters that I really like that happen to not be the version that we're all familiar with. That's my here's a couple examples. My favorite version of Clayface is Ethan Bennett from the 2004 Batman cartoon. Police Detective Ethan Bennett, who is also Bruce Wayne's best friend from childhood, who also happens to be a black guy. It's just, he's a really good character. They spent a lot of time building up his importance to Bruce and to Batman, and how he interacts with Batman and Bruce, and the way that his character changes his mind over the course of the first 2 seasons of that show. And then They take it all, well, the first season of the show, because the second season he's not in it. And then they take it all away from you by turning him into Clayface and making Joker responsible. And it's just, it's a shot to the gut, man. It's such a good character. It's probably my favorite, it's definitely my favorite Clayface ever. And it might be one of my favorite Batman villain interpretations ever. The Joker in that show is kind of a basic Joker. But the unique elements of him, the more Rastafarian sort of look to him. He's got some. I call him Rastafarian Joker because he kind of looks a bit Bob Marley for my tastes. He like the look of the character matches the personality of the character and matches the kinds of actions that version of the character takes. In comparison, the Joker that we have in the DC animated universe, Batman the Animated Series through Justice League Unlimited, is more of a mobster character, definitely a bit of a clown prince of crime, but more of a mobster than a clown prince of crime, and acts like it too, because that version was based off of the Jack Nicholson version and was originally supposed to be a continuation so that all the characters felt and looked relatively the same, all that kind of stuff. But you can have a different interpretation of a character that still fundamentally feels and acts like that character, but the differences of those characters are important differences. They're not superficial differences. They're not superficial differences, and those differences actually influence the actions that they take. For instance, Joker from Batman the Animated Series and from the DC Animated Universe is definitely someone I could believe would torture and would torture and brainwash a kid Robin, whereas Joker from Batman 2004, I could not see him doing that because there were multiple opportunities he had to go ahead and do so on Robin and Batgirl. And he didn't take those opportunities, and it would not have fit with the tone and direction that the show was going. But the tone and direction of the show were consistent. I probably sound like I'm rambling. I've been trying to move this piece for the last little bit. It's possible to have, it's entirely possible to have race swapped or gender swapped characters and to be done well. Another one of my favorite characters from Batman 2004 is Detective Ellen Yin. Now, she is based off of Ellen Yindel, who is a character from the Dark Knight Returns comic book, but Ellen Yin is Asian American and is voiced by Ming-Na Wen, who's an amazing voice actress on top of her other work as an actual actress. Not to say voice actors and actresses aren't actual actors and actresses, you know what I mean. But what I love about her character is the way that, it's the characterization. She starts off as a foil to Ethan Bennett, where Ethan Bennett is definitely pro-Batman and realizes that there are things in the system that the police simply aren't equipped to handle, or that Batman, because he doesn't work within the system, is much more capable of handling. And her response is, but he's breaking the law. She's a hardliner on these things. And over the course of the first two seasons, because she's not in the 3rd through 5th season, but over the course of the first 2 seasons, she changes her mind, realizes how important Batman is as a figure, and becomes a great partner to Batman. And it's very well done. And that is a race-swapped character who ends up being more important than the original character that you were working with. And it's done well. It can be done well. It just isn't done well in this show. Now, you also get a race-swapped Commissioner Gordon and a race-swapped Barbara Gordon. And it's not just a race swap for those characters. On top of being race swapped, also, Barbara Gordon happens to be just a hyper-competent individual without any particular reasons for doing so. And Jim Gordon kind of just doesn't have really anything to, doesn't really have a bunch to do in this show, and is kind of just plays second fiddle to his own daughter, which is just a stupid idea as a whole. If you're putting Jim Gordon in a Batman show and you want to talk about it, like and you want to play off of the police dynamic between Batman and between Batman and Gordon, and there's not like a definite Batman is seen as a good thing by the cops or by Gordon yet, make him an important character from the get-go. It's the first episode of the show. First impressions are very, very important, and the first impression you get from this show is that he kind of doesn't really have anything important to do in this entire show. Maybe that'll change. Maybe I'll see different as the show goes on. I hope I see different as the show goes on, because Jim Gordon is one of my favorite characters in Batman comics, and deserves to be treated well. And it's possible to do a good race-swapped version of him. And I think that Jeffrey Wright, who played him in the live-action movie, in the Robert Pattinson movie, he's a great actor, and I like his Jim Gordon. His Jim Gordon's really good. But he's also important to the story. Like, he's a character who's consistent and is important to the story, because Batman can't just do everything on his own, because in that movie he's also not on great terms with all of the cops yet. But that one is done well. This show, Gordon just exists as a figure. Now, you could say, okay, well, Jim Gordon didn't have a lot to do in many of the episodes of Batman the Animated Series. But every episode that he was in, he was treated as an important figure. He was treated like his interaction with the story actually mattered, and it wasn't just, a vehicle for us to say, oh, well, look at the great thing that we did by putting him in this, as if to pat yourself on the back for doing something that realistically doesn't actually change anything. And if it did change something that would have changed, if it did do a thing for society, it would have done so years and years ago when we first started doing this sort of thing. But no, it hasn't actually, like, that hasn't contributed anything to it. This isn't like the first interracial kiss in Star Trek, This isn't something that's actually going to change people, or that's actually going to be impactful to society as a whole. This is just a thing that the creatives thought, well, if we do this, we get brownie points with a crowd of people who really care about this sort of thing. And that's the worst way to go about it. Why would you want to be treated like you're a product to be sold, or to be marketed to? Why would you want to be treated that way? I don't understand that. I really don't understand that, and it just comes across as kind of slimy and scummy whenever I hear it. But these are things I expected. When the first thing that you hear about this show at its panel way back in, I think it was 21 or 22, the first thing you heard about the show is that it was going to be built for a, quote, modern audience, which is Hollywood code for we're going to be injecting a bunch of social policies or representing characters in certain ways, not because those changes mean anything to the story, but because we feel we need to do so that people can identify with these characters. Newsflash, you have never, ever, ever needed to see yourself physically represented in the role in order to relate to the character at hand. Okay? Every single time that Denzel Washington plays a righteous good a righteous law-abiding citizen who has to do dangerous things because the system won't help him in a movie, I immediately can relate to that character, because that's absolutely the kind of person I would want to be in that situation. I don't need to look like Denzel Washington to see why Denzel Washington's character I don't need to physically look like Denzel Washington in order to be represented by the values, morals, and character that Denzel Washington is playing. You've never needed to physically see yourself as the character in order to in order to be able to relate to the story that is being told about that character. It really is just an identity politics lie that is being told at this point, and it's just boring and old at this point, and like, just, you know, get over yourselves. It never ends up being as good as you think it will be. So yeah, there's not a particularly important story reason for why they switched around the racial makeup of the Gordons in this. What I will say is, one thing that does bother me is that Harvey Dent, District Attorney Harvey Dent, is portrayed as a bit of an asshole in this show, and he is in the wrong. Well, it doesn't show us. The show tells us that he is in the wrong when it comes to trying certain cases, because he just wants it for his career. And Barbara Gordon, who is on the opposite end of a lot of these things, is a civil servant defending a lot of criminals. What the show is telling you is that Harvey Dent's an asshole and is in the wrong. What the show is showing you is that Barbara Gordon is not serving the city. She is helping the potential criminals, which can be done well in good stories, but in this episode comes across as, because Harvey Dent is a straight white male and an asshole in this show, therefore he is trying these cases just because he wants to win, not because he actually cares about the law, which is a complete character assassination of who Harvey Dent is as a character. The law is the most important thing to Two-Face as a figure, so much so that if the coin says something that he doesn't want it to say, he does not care about his previous actions and will do exactly what the coin wants him to do. It is core to who he is as a figure, and again, it is a change that did not need to be made. It only takes away from the story. It does not add to the story. Now, they do the classic, you know, I can't believe you'd leave a man's life up to chance like that sort of bit. Oh, but I didn't. You see, the two sides of the coin are the head. Whatever. It doesn't come across as actually meaning anything in this, because again, the way they characterize him is he's just kind of an asshole who's doing this because he wants fame and fortune, not because he actually wants to serve law and order. More character assassination. And it just doesn't. It's just wearing a skin suit. It's wearing a DC Comics skin suit, and it's really creepy to see, because it's just bad. It's just really poorly written. Batman basically says nothing in this show. Like I know I've already said that. He basically says nothing in this show, so we can't actually make a lot of, like, there's not a lot of decisions that he makes that we can be very clear on. The actions that he does take, as I've said, are mostly Batman-related actions. The things that do bother me is that he just is okay with manslaughter and murder. At the very least, they could, and it's possible they do in future episodes, but as a first impression, this does not give me great confidence that this show is going to do this well, if at all. As a first impression, what I get is that this version of Batman genuinely could not care less about killing in any regard, which really takes away from his origin as being a victim of a heinous crime like murder, and looking for justice and vengeance because of that. Because otherwise, why does Batman do what he does? If the reason Batman does what he does is because, well, it happened because he wants vengeance for his parents, okay, well then he would have killed the person who killed his parents and been done with it. If the reason he does what he does is because he cares about justice and doesn't want this to happen to anyone else, any other children, then he wouldn't kill his enemies. He would allow law and order to take place, as flawed as it may be. But if he's just going to let it happen, then he doesn't really have a particular reason for doing so. He just is okay with doing this, and just decides, you know what, sounds like a fun thing for me to do today. Dress up like a bat and go and fight criminals and potentially put my life at risk and die. That sounds like a fun thing to me. Which is definitely not what this version of Batman thinks, because this version of Batman has no personality. This version of Batman is not interested in anything that they do. This version of Batman very clearly could not care less about whether they live or die, which is just a terrible characterization. Batman absolutely should care about whether he lives or dies, because if he dies, he can't continue the mission. And if he doesn't care about being Batman, then why does he continue to dress up like a bat and go and fight criminals every single night? That's got to be a massive toll on his, on his psyche, on his physicality, and certainly all the injuries he comes home with. That's a terrible thing. Why would he do it if he didn't care about it? If he does care about it, make him sound like he cares about something. It sounds like I'm talking in circles, and I know I probably am talking in circles. But this is what happens when you do not have a particularly clear creative direction for the show, and when your first impression is a pretty lackluster first impression. That's kind of the big focus for me, is that this is a really bad first impression. Is it possible for the show to rally and to really fix itself? I guess it's possible. Is it likely? No, there's very few shows that have a bad first impression that actually return as something good. I can count on one hand the number of times that has happened in recent memory. And the only example that exists that I know of is House of the Dragon. You know, after the horrendous just crap fest that was Game of Thrones Season 8, nobody thought House of the Dragon would be capable of being a good show. The first episode of House of the Dragon was very meh. Very just not a particularly impactful show, and not nearly as big of a drive as a lot of people thought it would be. But the rest of the season proved that you can still tell good stories in that larger universe, and that, you know, the Game of Thrones the seasons 5 through 8 are not indicative of the larger Song of Ice and Fire world. It can actually still be good. You just need, you know, good writers behind it. And House of the Dragon is definitely a show I would recommend if you're looking for a good story. I'm not a fan of how hypersexualized a lot of the elements can be. It's certainly toned down from Game of Thrones. It's less of that than Game of Thrones has, but there's still a lot of that in there, and it's very uncomfortable for me to watch every time I do, because the last thing I want to see on screen is more of that. And, you know, they've got the excuse of, okay, well, this conveys very important pieces of information about characters. You can do that without having to show these things. You show these things because it's in April. You show these things because it's an HBO show, and because you can get away with showing these things on an HBO show. Let's just be honest. The reason that kind of stuff is shown is because it's an HBO show, not because it's necessary for the story, or because it's the only way they could come up with finding solutions to telling these things in the story. It's because it's an HBO show. And if you're honest with it, okay, well, hey, at least you're honest. I don't have to like it, but at least you're honest about it. Or you could just try and make excuses around it. It sounds like I'm probably getting off topic with that. I'm not trying to. Good writing. That it is an example of a show that had a bad first impression, and absolutely found a way to turn it around. I'd say the entirety of that first season of the show I really do enjoy. And I'm not caught up on the second season yet. I've seen the first couple episodes of the second season, and I've enjoyed what I've seen so far. But it's extremely difficult and super rare to do that. Super rare for a show like that to actually come out, because the amount of work that you have to do with an audience to go ahead and win an audience back after a poor first impression more or less makes it entirely unfeasible to do so. It's just not something most people can get away with. Certainly the modern crop of writers in Hollywood, they just can't really get away with it. And that's another concern that I have. The people who were the writers behind behind Batman the Animated Series and the DC Animated Universe as a whole from 1992 to 2000 and was that 4 or 5, maybe 2006. They're not involved in this project. Paul Dini, the main creative force behind the writing for the show, not involved in this in any capacity whatsoever. Bruce Timm is, and okay, that's fine. Bruce Timm is also involved in those good shows, but he was not the main writer behind those shows. When Bruce Timm has had unfettered creative freedom in the projects that he's a part of, what results is terrible decisions like Batman and Batgirl having a relationship. That was him. That's his thing. That is his contribution to the greater Batman universe, is Batman and Batgirl having a relationship, which is just not something that I ever want to see ever. Now, reportedly, this show doesn't have any of that. Okay, that's good. But that sets a kind of precedent. He doesn't necessarily make the best creative decisions when it comes to writing. I don't know. This show doesn't seem like it's really panning out to be a great thing, and it is only the first episode. I've got a recording session after we do this that I have to do that for. But I'm not particularly enthusiastic about the potential that this show has going forward, and I really do hope that if the show does end up being bad, that it does not get extra seasons just because a lot of people talked about it. I spoke about this yesterday. Parrot Analytics. Parrot Analytics have nothing to do with the quality or the actual reception of the show. All that matters is how many times per capita or whatever the measurement happens to be. How many times is this show spoken about? How many tweets out of 1,000 are tweets about this show? How many YouTube videos per 1,000 YouTube videos are about this show, or whatever it happens to be. The only thing Parrot Analytics looks for is if enough people are talking about the show, therefore the show must be good. Well, what if you're saying that the show is garbage? Does that mean that the show's good? No, it means that a lot of people are talking about it, but they're talking about it negatively. And the odds of you making a profit on future endeavors with this show or this movie or this product are very low. But you're not looking for that. You're looking for how often it's spoken about. And that's not the best metric to go for. It's not a metric I would go for certain. It is not the smartest metric. If Warner Brothers wants to make money, it is not the smartest metric they could go with. That's the big thing here. Warner Brothers is a company, after all. The job of a company, more than just providing a product or service, the job of the company internally is to make money so they can keep producing things and keep making money. They should care about doing so well. But shareholders aren't necessarily interested in providing a good product because it's not about profit margins for the shareholders, it's about stock price for the shareholders. As long as their stock price is up, then they're fine. Now, the stock price can be up, but the actual quality of the thing can be garbage, and they would still be fine because the stock price is up. But they care more about the stock price than the quality of the product, and that is overall the problem that we're seeing with a lot of things today, and is my concern with this show, is that that's what we're seeing. I really hope that that's not what we're seeing. Again, I know it's just the first episode, but if your first episode is garbage, the likelihood of your other episodes being good are very, very low. I don't know how many times I need to repeat that. Hopefully not a ton. All right. I was considering going ahead and raising this a bit, but I guess we'll just have to work with this as it is. Yeah, probably. That's a pretty good, a pretty solid platform. Happy with that. Happy with that for sure. It's definitely, you know, it's a, it falls in line with the overall building method that I'm going for here. Something that can last for a while, but is not, you know, difficult to produce or to maintain. Brick structures like these are not difficult to produce or maintain, and they can last a good long while as long as you actually take care of things. And the dirt movement would be easy, because set game hour to 10. Moving all the dirt around would not be a problem, because people in power armor can move a lot of things, a lot of heavy things really easily. So I'm not really concerned about whether or not they could move this much earth. And it's also 9 years on, okay? There's a lot of things you can do in 9 years. A lot of things you can get done in 9 years, but yeah, this will definitely have to be sort of housing for the grounded forces here. We can probably also put like a mess hall or something. Yeah, we could do that. We could definitely do that. Yeah, here's what we'll do. We will go, yeah, retaining wall, sidewalks. Go with you. We'll go in here to the steps. There we go. And then I'm probably gonna need to go like this. That's pretty infuriating. Okay, we're gonna drop you. Gonna come in here. Oh man. Apologies, that was a cough right into the mic. Ooh boy. I've been talking about this for a bit now. And now it's starting to bother me. Oh, I see. Of course. I mean, in that case, I might as well just move this forward, right? If I'm gonna do it like that, I might as well make that a full block platform instead of a half block platform, and then that solves all my other problems with this. All right. Well, that was a lot of yapping. I did get a chance to read some of your messages there, Ranger Bravo. Yeah. This is a problem that's existed in DC, Disney, and Marvel for a very long time. I don't see it not being here anytime soon. As much as I know that they're losing a lot of money on doing these things, I don't see them making any changes creative, any actually substantial changes creatively, because that would require the firing and reorganizing of a lot of their writing team and a lot of their creative departments, and doing so might open them up to concerns of, you know, of some kind of lawsuit or whatever, when realistically you're bad at your job. You can make the argument, if you're bad at your job, you're not working here anymore. But if they ask, okay, well, why me specifically? Why is my job not here anymore? Then there's the concern, okay, well, if a lawsuit shows up, they could raise the question of, was this done out of some kind of prejudice or whatever, when it wasn't done out of any prejudice. It's just, look, you're bad at your job, you need to be gone, and these departments don't actually do anything. You know, if you went the Elon Twitter route and just decided, hey, all of these jobs that are not actually necessary for the platform to function, these jobs don't exist anymore. If you went that route, you would definitely solve this problem, for sure. But they're not ballsy enough to do that kind of thing, because they are worried about looking bad with a crowd that doesn't actually care about whether they succeed or fail. Rather than looking good to the people who actually care about the things that they make and the things that they do, which are the longtime fans, the people who have been invested for most, if not all, of their lives. They're the people who you really should care about their opinions. But they're the people whose opinions mean the least to these large groups. Because they're the ones who are painted as being, well, because you like the old thing and not the new thing, that means you're racist or sexist or you know, bigoted in some other third fashion. When, what if all you really care about is the fact that the characters are treated well? What if that's what you're upset about, the characters not being treated well? Does that mean you're all these bad things? Yes. Yes, it does, according to them. It really does. But as much as it sounds like I don't want to talk about this show, I really do want to talk about this show. As much as it sounds like I hate talking about this, I really do want to talk about it, because it's something that matters to me. It's a character that matters to me. It's a creative process that matters to me. And it's a more impactful way to talk about something than to just decide to become a political pundit. People are far more willing to listen to someone talk about a piece of pop culture that they care about than about a type of politics that, well, I don't necessarily want to hear what you have to say on that. Which I completely understand. I am not a fan of talking too much politics. It can get very boring very quickly. But I'm more than happy to talk about pieces of pop culture and how politics have influenced those pieces of pop culture, because that does matter. That does matter. Politics influences pop culture, and pop culture determines the larger social fabric. And if the social fabric is pro or anti X, Y, or Z thing, that is largely because the pop culture of the day is telling them to be, or telling it to be. And if you can recognize these things, you can change them. If you can recognize the causes and influences, then you can change them, have an actually positive effect on it. That's why it matters to me to talk about these things. And on top of that, it's being produced poorly. If you're making something, why would you not try to make it the best thing you possibly could make? Why would you make it anything less than exceptional? What is the point of creating a mediocre or poor project? How does that in any way contribute to your overall goal of producing things? Is that a good representation of your efforts, of your work ethic? Wouldn't you want to make a good thing as good as it possibly can be? I certainly do. That's why I take so long with the things that I make. That's why the settlement tours took 50 episodes in between the two. Because I care about all of the little details, because if I didn't pay attention to the little details, then the greater details, the things that are important, would also escape me. And that would not be a good thing. You shouldn't lose sight of the big picture for the little details, and you should not leave the little details alone just because you're trying to fit a big picture. It's possible for them to all be cohesive. What it requires is time, technique, and talent. And if you have at least two of those things, then you're probably in a good spot to start with. I certainly have time and technique. I don't necessarily know if I have talent, but I've definitely got time and technique, and I can work on the talent portion. But these are professionals, man. Professionals have standards. As the old Team Fortress 2 meme goes, professionals have standards, and the standards that professionals have currently are really crappy standards. Like, why? Why would you want your standards to be this low? Is this really what you think of your own work? Is this really how little you care about your own product? Like this, really, the show does kind of just seem like a massive cash grab for Bruce Timm and co. Because if the first episode tells me anything, it tells me that what they're doing is they're kind of just crapping on everything that was good about Batman the Animated Series. And as much as I wish Kevin Conroy could still be around to voice Batman stuff, if this is the quality of things that we're making with the Batman IP, I don't want him to voice these things. It's better that he can't voice these things than to voice. It's better that Kevin Conroy cannot participate in cannot participate in any products than having him participate exclusively in bad products. Which is also part of why I don't like the Suicide Squad game. It's a significant portion as to why I don't like the bad Suicide Squad game. Lots of character assassination all around. Lots of character assassination and grandstanding and political correctness and just the dumbest stuff. I mean, it's a Canadian product. It does not surprise me, but it's just some of the dumbest stuff, man. Just some of the worst DC content out there. 2024 is not the year for DC content. It just really isn't the year for it. And that sucks. I really wish it was. I really do wish it was, but nope. Nope. We're stuck. The only way that these things can be, like, actual improved changes at this point can be made seems to be just clean house. Clean house and make sure, like, having an actually rigorous vetting process that requires that all of the people that you hire for these creative positions genuinely care about telling good stories not just stories that have certain ideas in them, or certain thoughts or concepts or morals or messages in them. A good story doesn't have to be a story whose message I agree with. It just needs to be well written and well characterized and actually genuine in what it's saying. For instance, and this is wrapping us back around, I despise the world of Game of Thrones. I'm really sick and tired of the dreary Dark Ages, quote unquote realism that really just is the least realistic thing, but it's gritty and it's dark and it's violent, therefore it must be realistic. Because our modern world is pessimistic, so the Middle Ages must be pessimistic, must have also been pessimistic, all this kind of stuff. Even though the Middle Ages historically were one of the most optimistic and pious points in human history, it's always treated as, well, it's actually just, you know, pessimistic, and you're gonna always run into atheistic peasants who only go to church because they feel like they're forced to do so or whatever. Like, that's called projection is what that is. But what I do like about Game of Thrones, the first 4 seasons anyway, and what I do like about House of the Dragon is the quality of the stories they're telling are quality regardless of the setting that they're in. That's how it that's how it can be done well. You don't need to agree with the thing for it to be done well. I mean, you'll hear this all the time about a lot of Christian projects out there right now. VeggieTales, for instance. Lots of people love VeggieTales who aren't Christians. Lots of people love VeggieTales who aren't religious in any way, shape, or form, because it's a well-done show whose story is coherent and actually teaches an important lesson without beating you over the head with the thing. It doesn't mean that they're religious. Doesn't mean that they're Christians at all. It means that they recognize how well the thing is, how well the thing is done, and appreciate the fact that it's done well. Most of the friends that I have, I would say, probably are not. Definitely most of the friends that I have are not Christians, but VeggieTales is an awesome show to them because it tells the stories well, and it doesn't try and make them feel bad for not agreeing with the story, or for not agreeing with the religion that the story is tied to, that kind of stuff. But shows like Batman Caped Crusader, they really do hit you over the head with it, and they really do make you feel like, well, if you don't agree with these characters, if you don't agree with the characterization, you're the problem. What if it's just a bad characterization? Is it possible? Can it just be a bad characterization? Can it please just, you know, not be, oh, well, that means you hate black people or whatever? No, I don't like Black Barbara Gordon because there's like 60 things wrong with her as a character. And also, you're race swapping her. But that's secondary to the fact that she's a bad character. Oh, man. It's Clown World. That's what it is. It's just Clown World nonsense. I'm just done with it. But that's what I did with my first hour and a half of today's stream. That's what I did. All right. I'm very happy with the plot of land that we've sectioned out here. It might not be the only plot of land that we section out. I don't know. Can we get into this warehouse? If we can get into this warehouse, I will probably turn this into something as well. Can we? Okay, we can. How much can we interact with? Not a ton. Not a ton. That would make it a bit of a challenge. Not impossible, but definitely a bit of a challenge. That's a non-ref AV object, just like the rest of these. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it does make it impossible for us really to interact with, but I'll delete those and then keep whatever's in them. Well then. Okay, no warehouse. That sucks. A lot of this stuff is just gonna be sitting here. Yeah, It's not going to be as beautiful as of a project as I would like it to be. You guys know how I do this. You guys know that I like to beautify all the things that we've got so far, and I would like to be able to clean this whole space up. But none of the mods that I have are really capable of doing so. So we will work with what we can. We will work with what we can. Well, you know what else we'll do? We will go ahead and start working on the foundation layout for the different buildings that will be up here. So what we need is we need a couple of bunkhouses, which are not going to be too difficult to do. We can build a couple of bunkhouses. We can build an officer's quarters. We can build a commissary, and create a little plot of land for some farming as well. But that's 4 things. 4 things, maybe 6 buildings in total. Maybe 6 buildings in total. We'll see. We'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I were to go in by half a block on each side, that would be down to 6, which is great. Yeah, here's what I'll do. Nope, not X300, Z300. Oh, you know what? No. No, what I want to do... What I want to do is I want to set up all the pathing between these first, don't I? Yeah, okay. I'll set up the pathing first. Right, in that case, here's what we'll do. Grab these boys. We love these guys here. Attach you. Now we're going to move you up. Mod pause Z16, right? Yes. There we go. Wonderful. Nice and centered. Then I can go ahead and attach to the top of you on either end here. On either end here. No. No. Alright, here's what I want. Reattach you there. What I'm really looking for is for you to be in the middle of that. So we'll go y minus 32, x 32. All right, beautiful. Then up, and then like that. And then we will drop you, mod pause z minus 0.003. And that's not center. Of course that's not center. Okay. That's better. As close to good as I'm probably going to be able to get with that, but that's okay. We can now go ahead and build ourselves a bit of a path around. And once we've got the perimeter decided, we can go ahead and connect all kinds of smaller roadways and all sorts of stuff here. Making it all work. Wonderful. Now right here, I know what I'm doing with this. Oh man, my left arrow key is giving out again. All right. Yeah, and I'm gonna make sure I order a keyboard actually right now. Actually, no, I'm going to see what they've got at Best Buy. Because I can just go pick that up when we're done here. Alright, Corsair keyboard. I'm gonna move this window over here, actually. There we go, now it's not over the chat. Alright, they got the K55, which is not the one I currently have. But is... I mean, it's got all the same bells and whistles. Yeah, exclude out of stock items. Ready in an hour items. Alright, the K55, which I believe I've had before, haven't I? No, but I've had a very oh, this is the K55 refresh. Okay. Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's got the things I'm looking for, you know. It's a keyboard. It has the numpad and everything else. Yeah, why not? Why not? That I'll go for that one then. Cool. Now, when does my store close again? Oh, yeah, we're good. I'll just go right after we're done here today. All right, very, very strange tangent for me to go on, but important because I don't want to have any problems with this in the future, if I can help it. All right, great. We got that, and we'll just do that 2 more times. 1 for here and 1 for here. Okay. I don't even need to, do I? No, I don't. Awesome. There we go. I like that. I like the 3 sort of pathways we've got there. And then over here, we can continue heading on this way. 4. I'll work on that one momentarily. Let me get over here and work on these guys. This seems asinine, I'm sure. But I gotta be very, very detail oriented about this. You know me. Odd angle Z45. All right. All right, there we go. That's what I needed. Perfect. We're actually going to work on that angle before I finish off this little section here. Yeah, let's go with that. That's better. Yeah, I'll just do it like this. Makes it a lot easier. Perfect. Okay, we got the perimeter. We got the perimeter, and we've got the entrances to the zone. Now we just need to figure out where the buildings are going to be for each of these. And that's probably not going to be too tough to do. Thank you for warning me about the build limit, by the way. I will go on over to our boy. Nope, not there. To our boy, the where is it? The actual settlement workshop contraption here, and I will change that. All right, I'm forgetting what the command here is. Ooh, actually, no, I don't need a command for it, do I? No, I don't. We'll go F5. We'll go manage, build limits. All right. We'll see how we go with that. If I have to increase the limits, then I have to increase the limits further than that. But we'll see. Probably shouldn't have to. All right, that'll be good for a bit. I can go back and do that later. All right, nice clear day. Still very shady, of course, because we've got... Oh, man. Ugh. All right. So I said maybe 6 buildings is what we need. Yeah, maybe 6 buildings. We'll start over here. I'll put the one of the barracks buildings over here, if not both of them, honestly. I could put both of them and then have them go moving in this direction. Yeah, the length that way, the width this way. Maybe not. No, maybe not. Maybe not. Probably not. Okay. Here's what we will do, though. I'm gonna try my best to do all of the. Oh boy, that was a measure of lag. Oh boy, look at that. That was a measure of lag right there. I will go ahead and do all of the layout for the buildings before I go ahead and build them, so that I know what I'm working with, and then I'll just have to remember what I wanted each of the buildings to be. You know. Not that difficult. All right, 3.5. Yeah, we can do 3.5. Three and a half by 2 for barracks building number 1. That way it still fits within all of our boundaries here. Ooh, we've got a little bit more room on that end, don't we? And that's still nice and even. Wonderful. All right, and then in between those buildings, I won't build a pathway, but I'll leave one little space in between those buildings. So we'll go like this. We'll go just as a placeholder and something that's different enough that I recognize it. We'll go with you. All right. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And then we'll go ahead and close those up with the foundations around them. We'll go with these so that I don't have to worry about what kind of block we're going to be using for it. Like I don't have to match the foundation to the building type. That's right, you won't accept the corner there, will you? Okay, we'll start with the back section then. Where because it's a full block, it should accept the corner. That's good. That closes up the gap there on the space in between the two. Does a really nice job closing up that gap. Okay. Yeah, build limit is really the one thing I've never had to worry about with any of the other settlements, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah, that's something I'll have to think about for this guy. The more I expand it, the more lag that will be generated because it has to process more objects, but it's not going to be... It will literally never be as bad as Jamaica Plain until we start building another city. Which is not our goal with the Boston Airport location. That's not our goal. We're not here to build a city. So we don't really have anything to worry about. Okay, those are the two barracks. Those are the two... yeah, we're gonna separate. One of them will be the Knights barracks. The other one will be the other one would be the not scribes. Scribes are the kids. The oh, why am I forgetting? It's oh man, I'm forgetting. It's at the top. It's on the tip of my tongue. And I'm forgetting what it is. You know what I'm going for here. One of them's for the Knights. The other one is for the not the scribes. The come on, NCR Ranger Bravo, help me out here. You would know. You would know. What group is it's the Knights, and then it's the what? I'm blanking here. I'm floundering. Help. Come on. This is gonna drive me crazy. I guess I'll just look it up. Oh, no, it is the scribes. I was getting Squire and Scribe mixed up. Okay, it is the scribes. I'm dumb. I'm done. This is stupid. What a dumb move right there. Okay, so yeah, one of them's the Knight's bunker, not bunker, Knight's bunkhouse, and the other one is the scribe's bunkhouse. There we go. We'll decorate it accordingly. I just need to make sure that those two are there. On the opposite end over here, with its own private staircase, we'll go with the officers' quarters, which I want to make sure is the same distance we've got here. So that was how many? Let me go ahead and see which one were you here. Was it 6? Okay, it was 6. Cool. That informs how I'm going to work on this guy over here. It will be 6, probably in the X direction. Yeah, most likely in the X direction, but we'll start with you. Alright, we've got room for 4.5 instead of 3.5. Wonderful, that's what we wanted. We wanted the officers' quarters to be just a bit larger here. Oh man, we're already 2 hours in. Time flies when you're really hyper fixated on details, I guess. Okay, is this like a noticeable gap difference? Am I imagining that? Or is it there? No, it's real. Why didn't I pick up on it over here then? Or is it real? Hold on. That might not actually be a real thing. That's probably just an optical illusion. Alright. I want to get rid of these so badly. No idea how much I want to get rid of those. Oh, that could work. No, that couldn't. Okay. Well, that's not even the thing I clicked on. I really want to just remove this so that it's not in the way. I don't want to have to build on top of it. I could, of course, just turn that into the crop area. Yeah, I'm honestly might as well. Might as well turn that into where we're going to have the crops. We need to be able to produce some amount of our own stuff here at the airport. Not a ton, but some stuff. And then over here we'll build the commissary. Yeah, I was gonna try and have the officers' quarters in two separate things. One for the officers in the scribe division, and the officers in the actual the knights. But okay. Like knight captains and everything else. But okay, I guess we'll go for just one. Then instead we'll build you over here. All right, yeah, we'll do officers' quarters. Here's the farmland. This will be, I guess, storage for all of that stuff. And then in the center here, we'll have the commissary. Not commissary, mess hall. Yeah, commissary is a different thing, as I have been informed. That is a very good question, Ranger Bravo. That is a very, very good question. It is not one that is often answered very well, so I will try my best to do so. But remember that when I answer this question, my answer is not meant to be malicious or mean in any way, shape, or form. I simply might not be the best at explaining things. So, to answer the question as to whether or not being LGBTQ is a sin in the Bible, it's a bit more complex than a simple yes or no. So first and foremost, according to biblical scripture, as opposed to I don't know what other kind of scripture, I guess Quran scripture. But according to the Bible, our identity is to be found in our faith, not in ourselves. I am not, I might be born in America and therefore be American. I might be born white and therefore am white. I might be born with a certain sexual orientation and therefore be attracted to that sex. But my identity is found in Christ, not in what I am born as. In fact, what the Bible asks us to do, and what Christianity as a whole really is about, is not living by the way, not living according to the way that you were, but becoming something new in Christ. You may have been born with a certain, sexual proclivity. You might be born with a certain type of sexual orientation or sexual addiction, even, in the cases of pornography or just outright sex addiction. But what Christianity challenges you to and asks of you is not to give in, not to live life the way that you were born, but to find new life, to find your purpose in Christ. So to answer the question as straightforward as I can, and then I'll wrap back around to it, the Bible is very clear about all forms of sex outside of marriage between a man and wife are sinful forms of sex. Whether that happens to be sodomy, so anal sex, or that happens to be specifically homosexual actions in any way, shape, or form, whether that's rape or literally any form of sex outside of the marriage between a man and wife in the Bible is sinful. So, yes, biblically, homosexuality is a sin and is specifically recorded several times because these questions have come up in years past. There is, of course, Sodom and Gomorrah, which several sins were happening there. There was the sin of homosexuality. There was the sin of lustful pleasures in general, because Sodom and Gomorrah were both extremely sinful cities whose core aspect was the sexual liberation, or so they called it, that they have, but also they were also rapists. All of these things were true about Sodom and Gomorrah, and God dealt with Sodom and Gomorrah accordingly. On top of that, there were also other things that happened. So in one of the letters that St. Paul wrote to, multiple letters, but one of the letters he wrote to one of the Greek city-states, I'm forgetting which one. I believe it was Ephesians to Ephesus, but it could be a variety of them. And he mentions this discussion several times. One of the letters that was brought up, in one of the letters he wrote, he addresses the fact that all kinds of sexually immoral actions were being taken within Christian communities inside of one of these cities where Christianity had sort of garnered a foothold. And all of his letters start with a greeting to his brothers and sisters in Christ, because he knows that no matter what he's about to tell you, you are a beloved son or daughter of God, and that who you are is not necessarily determined by the actions that you have taken, although those actions may be contradictory to who you are as a person. He wants to remind himself and the people that the letter is addressed to, and us who are reading this, that these sins may have taken place, but they were sins committed by people who are just as loved by God as the rest of us, and we should remember that. But he addresses that sexual sin in all of its forms yes, specifically homosexuality, but also adultery, infidelity, any form of sex outside of marriage, obviously rape, all of these kinds of things are sins, because it is not the way that God created us to be, and it is not the plan that God, had for humanity. So yes, choosing to live your life in a way that emphasizes and promotes sexual sin is a sin. Yes. In that sense of being LGBTQ, yes. Being born as a person who has a who has a proclivity to a certain type of sexual sin, being someone who is attracted to these things does not mean that because you exist that you are sinful. The sin is not found in the existence of the person. The sin is found in the action that the person takes. So you can have these attractions and not act on them and not be sinful. Or you can have the attractions and act on them and call yourself a Christian and be acting sinfully. I hope that was very clear. My goal is to be as clear with that as possible. Because it is important that I mention this, because I know that people watching this either live or perhaps in the VOD are going to immediately jump to a certain conclusion, I do not have any prejudices towards you for having a certain sexual orientation. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that because you have a sexual orientation, you are an evil person. That is not what I'm saying. To be very clear, I do not hate you if you happen to be someone who identifies as LGBTQ or whatever. To just directly answering that question is all that this was about. And I will say that on the point of living life outside of who it is that you were born as is basically key to all of Christianity. All right, Christ calls us to be born anew through Him, through baptism and through accepting Christ as our Savior. He, as he says, if you're not reborn in spirit, if you're not reborn of spirit and of water, you will not see the kingdom of heaven. What he's asking you to do is, it doesn't matter who you used to be. What he's asking is for you to, outside of yourself, perhaps not in your own self-interest, in fact, almost never in your own self-interest, to live a life that he has called you to, and that life is not going to be a life that contradicts the life he calls you to is not going to be a life that contradicts the way that God created humanity. Yeah, how do I make this a bit more clear? So let me take an example. I will say, let me create a figure for you that we can then go ahead and work off of for this question. All right, say that your name is Jack. Okay, Jack. I'm not speaking to you specifically, Ranger. I don't know what your name is. Okay, this character Jack was born. Was born with a specific attraction to other men. All right, and he comes to know Christ and wants to live life as a Christian. But he was born with this attraction towards men. How does he live life as a Christian with this attraction? What Christianity asks of you, what God asks of you. And what is very clear through the scriptures is that you are asked not to live in this sin, not to live life calling yourself a Christian, but also choosing to have homosexual relationships. If you choose to call yourself a Christian, what Christ is asking of you is to not follow your own passions anymore. And for some individuals, what that means is that they are redeemed from their sexual sin, and find not only comfort in Christ, but are able to find a wife or a husband if they're a woman, and live a fulfilling life. In other cases, what that means is the cross that you have to bear is a cross of sexual sin, and is the cross of sexual sin and the cross of temptation to sexual sin. Now, this can manifest in a bunch of ways outside of homosexuality, but of course the question that you asked was about homosexuality as a whole. I do hope that was clear. Yeah, I'm always concerned with the clarity of the things that I say, because I understand all too well how very easily they can be misinterpreted. It's not always intentionally so either, so I'm trying to be as clear as I can about these things. What I want to do here, I'm going to go grab you. We'll do the same over here. See how much space we've got in between these two for a commissary building. Oh boy, that's not what I wanted. Alright, good. I'm glad I was able to be clear for you. If you've got more questions about it, I'm more than happy to do my best to answer them. And for anyone who's watching who might be struggling with sexual sin, I highly suggest going and finding a spiritual advisor who's willing to listen to you. If you're genuinely interested in what Christianity has to offer as well, because I understand that there's a lot of concerns within certain communities about, the Christian answer to things, and because in times past it has not always been clear the way that it is supposed to be taught. But the scriptures are very clear, and the scriptures are truth, and I would not want you to be turned away to the truth that Scripture offers because of a bad experience with a poor instructor. I would hope that you would go and seek out someone who is genuinely open to hearing what you have to say, and not so that they can affirm the life choices you have made. No, if you're seeking spiritual advice, you should expect not to be coddled. I would say this to anybody, regardless of what it is you may or may not be struggling with. If you're seeking spiritual advice, you should seek not to be coddled. You should seek to be confronted with truth and to be walked through how to live in that, how to live in truth, not in a personal truth, but in truth as an objective idea. But I would certainly suggest seeking out a solid spiritual advisor who can help with a lot of these questions, because as much as I would love to be able to dedicate all of my time to helping, I am not qualified to do so. I'm simply here trying to answer questions that people have to the best of my ability. What I have found in Christianity is a fullness and a truth that, like a fullness and an understanding of truth, of objective truth, that I simply cannot explain entirely. There is an experience that comes with it that I would hope for everybody. There is a weightlessness almost, that comes with being able to rely on. Being able to rely on Christ, as difficult as it is to remember at certain times, because we are all human, and therefore we are all imperfect beings who were made by a perfect creator. And because we are not the ones who are perfect, we all need help at different times. And what I have been able to find Christianity has been amazing. I would love that to be the case for all of you who are watching me. All right, is that what you were hoping for there? Yeah, I think that worked. Right? Yeah, good. Very good. Yeah, I having had this conversation with a few different friends of mine, I've definitely got difficulties with the way that this kind of thing is often spoken about, in terms of solutions to problems, largely because most of the people who end up providing solutions are coming from a place not of understanding but of fear, and that's that's difficult for anyone to deal with. I wouldn't want any of the problems that I deal with to be handled out of fear. I would hope that they are all being handled out of love and care, and everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves that. I think it's important to recognize the actions of Christ. You know, Christ did not often dine with the righteous people of his day, with the holy people of his day. He dined most often with the various forms of sinners, whether they were tax collectors, which is considered a form of sinner, which I think is very interesting, or tax collectors, prostitutes, murderers, all kinds of different sinners are the people that Christ dined with, because, as he says, he did. It's not the healthy who need a physician. The healthy do not need a hospital. They do not need to be helped. The healthy should be able to find the truth themselves, but it's those who are sick who need a doctor. And that sickness comes in many forms for many different types of people. Everyone, according to Christian theology, everyone is born with a certain spiritual gift that may or may not be evident to them, but at the same time, they are also, each individual is also born with certain with like a certain sin or certain type of sin that they are most likely to commit. You know, it is their personal sinful nature. For many people, especially in today's world, that ends up being sexual sin as a whole, whether it's an addiction to pornography or an addiction to or being just addicted to masturbation or any form of sexual sin, really. And there's not a great conversation out there being had about how to handle that kind of thing, how to overcome your personal nature, because that is what's being asked of us. We're not being asked to live life the same way that we always have, except now you say, I love Jesus. No, we're being asked to live differently than we were, live differently than the rest of the world. And that includes in the way that we have our relationships with each other. I think it was probably pretty clear how much care I try and put into this discussion. I love having biblical discussions, and if I thought that it was, I'm still praying about it. If I did think that it was a direction I could go when it came to content creation that would be beneficial, not just to myself but to the conversation as a whole, I definitely would do so. I'm still praying about it, as I just said. So I'm still discerning, trying to figure out if that's what's being asked of me. But if so, that would be pretty cool. That'd actually be pretty cool. It's something I care about a lot, but I'm not an expert in any of these things. I'm just a voracious reader who was raised in a Christian household with parents who were not afraid to answer tough questions. All right, so because we've got only about 20 minutes left here, let me show you what we've got. We've got right here, We've got the officers' quarters. We're gonna have both of these be the officers' quarters. One for the officers within the military group, so the knights, knight captains, all the way up to sentinels, and then this will be the scribe officers' quarters. At the other end over there, we've got the scribe and knight quarters for those who are not officers. And then right here we've got the commissary. That section in the back there is going to be the kitchen for the commissary. And then in this section here, we've got where will be the farm for the Boston airport. While most of the food that the Brotherhood consumes, especially on the Prydwen, most of that is going to be prepackaged goods, whether it's the Salisbury steak stuff or whether it's rations that they themselves have put together. They should have, for dietary reasons and for logistic reasons. It takes a massive load. It takes a massive weight off of the logistics department to be able to grow their own crops and to utilize them in their own food. I'll also at some other point build a section for the different trade caravans to come through. Once I figure out how that's going to work, we do need walls around the zone. I don't know really where we're going to. Actually, we might not need walls around the zone. I don't know if Boston Airport is a settlement that can be attacked by like raiders or ghouls or super mutants or whatever. I'll look into that. But if we don't need to set up any defenses, then I probably won't set up any defenses. It's just a hassle. It's just a massive hassle, you know? Oh, you have the spiritual gift of vanishing bad energy? I'm not sure if that's one of them. Not as far as I know, as far as I'm aware, that's not one of the spiritual gifts, but I'm more than eager to see that in action. If you definitely could. Yeah, everyone's got it's two sides of the same coin, really. Everyone's got a certain cross that they have to bear, whether that is the past that they have led, or a temptation that they run into. That can be the temptation. You can be tempted to gambling, to alcoholism, to substance abuses, to a temptation towards sexual immorality. But then the other side of that is you also have a spiritual gift, and that spiritual gift is something you can only like you may be able to tap into that spiritual gift in one way or another in your everyday life, but you'll never be able to reach that fullness of it without Christ. And once you do, it is a beautiful thing. I know for my brother, one of his spiritual gifts, it's possible to have more than one, but the one that's most prominent for me, the most prominent in him that I can see, is he has a gift for conversation, specifically for these kinds of conversations. If there's one thing he could talk about for the rest of his life and be perfectly happy doing so, it would be Christianity. He has a fire for it like I've seen in no one else, and it's really, really cool to see. Really, really cool to see. I'm kind of just walking in circles right now because I'm trying to determine what is the next thing I want to do with the last 18 minutes that we've got. Okay. Well, if you are genuinely experiencing spiritual attacks, demonic attacks, then I suggest finding a priest. Doesn't matter if it's Catholic or Orthodox. Find a priest, and get their help with this sort of thing, please, because it's not something that you can really handle on your own very easily, and it is not a wise thing to do to try and solve these kinds of problems on your own. If this is genuinely an issue that you're running into, if you are actually suffering from demonic attacks, whether that's suppression, oppression, or yeah, there's demonic suppression, demonic oppression, and then demonic what's the third type? Suppression, oppression, and possession. There we go. I wasn't gonna say, you know, the one where the demon's in your body. It's suppression, oppression, and possession. If you are genuinely experiencing one of those three things, seriously go find a priest, a Catholic or an Orthodox priest, because in the Protestant church we do not have a lot of ways of handling these sorts of things. I'm kind of discerning. I'm discerning Catholicism right now as to whether or not that's the direction I want to go with my life. And what I have seen so far, I am extremely, extremely proud of when it comes to Catholicism. And I've spent a lot of time researching it beforehand, but that's not the discussion here. If you are actually being, you know, being demonically oppressed, suppressed, or possessed, find a priest or have a trusted friend bring you to a priest. You don't mess around with this stuff. You don't try and fight it off on your own. This is spiritual warfare that has taken physical form. Get like actual help for it. For your own good, get actual help for it. No, what I wanted was Homemaker, decorations, landscaping, and foliage. We're gonna do a little bit of the placing of greenage right now. It's one of the things we're gonna do just around the perimeter, and maybe in between the buildings. Yeah, well, in between the buildings will also work. Alright, you don't want to attach right there. That's fine. We'll just go the other way then. Yeah, just because it's crazy, doesn't mean that it's something you should, you know, let continue to happen. Yeah, it's something that really does need to be handled. I wish that that the various Protestant forms of Christianity, I really do wish that they had ways of handling these things, but we don't. We do not. We do not. The Catholics and the Orthodox kind of are the only ones who have ever really had ways of handling it. They are certainly the only ones consistently good at it. Now, they will go ahead and, by law, they are required to make sure that it's not mental illness, that it's actually demonic attacks. So it's not a short process by any means, but it's a very important process. I mean, the last thing you want to do for the rest of your life is live with a demon, right? If they attack you and they make you feel like you're bleeding and all that kind of stuff, that's probably the last thing you actually want to live with the rest of your life. I certainly wouldn't want to live with that. But the solution is to get help. Not the other thing. Oh boy, my left arrow key is just not working at all anymore. Alright, I know how I'm going to work on this side. To try and get some of this handled. Maybe? No? Okay, that's fine then. Do the same over here, and then I'll make the two line up to the best of my ability. Okay, come on. Wonderful. All right, when we are done with this, we will finish up for the day. Because my store closes in about half an hour. And I need to go get that keyboard. If I'm going to do any of the editing that I need to do tonight. I do really need that keyboard. I've also got another video to record. I've got the Batman video, so it's not like I'm just doing the like I'm just working on the VOD stuff tonight. If that were it, I could get away with not having arrow keys. Nope. Thank you. There we go. I get to finish the corners now. Oof. Wonderful. No, if I can't get that whole corner taken care of, I'm not going to place it in that corner. Not my biggest concern. Would like to work on that, though. We should be able to over here. All right, cool. Cool. Let's go ahead and grab the screenshot. Do 18. Come on up here. We'll save our game. New save. Awesome. You love golden hour. You gotta love golden hour. All right. Well, that is basically everything for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I do need to wrap up here pretty quick, so I'm going to try my best to make everything nice and short here. For those of you watching live, if you're not already, consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribing, and following me over on the VODs channel. Of course, following me here on Kick if you want to watch live on a regular basis every day, except for Sundays, and in the case of this last week, lots of weird stuff was going on because I needed a little bit of a break after the settlement tour video. But our regular schedule, 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, 4:30 Central is our starting time. And if you are watching on the VODs channel, thank you very much for doing so. You guys have had an excellent response to the settlement tour so far, which is really cool to see. It means the world to me that you guys are interested in this kind of stuff. I put a lot of dedication and time and effort into it, so it's really cool to see you guys enjoying it. We've got more of this coming. I've also got a Batman video that I'm working on tonight, which should be out. If everything goes well, the Batman video will be out at some time tomorrow, which will be Friday the 2nd. Before the stream. That's my goal. As long as it gets out before the stream, we're good. And then every Friday for the next 10 Fridays is going to be when I release a Batman video for this show. And I'd like to get them all done before I release them, so that I can have consistent content for my third channel for a bit as I continue talking about it. I might do 2 videos a week for that third channel after I finish with this first one. Maybe we'll have one come out, I don't know, Wednesday and Friday, but we'll see. We'll see. It all comes down to how quickly I can do a turnaround on these and actually still make them good. So yeah, that's pretty much everything on that end. If you want to use any of the settlement mods that I've got going on, in the description of every single VOD on my channel, every single VOD for the settlement build series, you will find a list of all of the settlement mods that I'm using, which I believe is 53 or 54 settlement mods. So if you want to pick up any of those mods, they're right there. I play on the PC, and I use Nexus for all of my mods, and the Mod Organizer 2 for my actual mod loader itself. You'll also find links to my different social media platforms and ways to support me monetarily if you feel like doing so. Honestly, subscribing does the most, because once I hit 500 subscribers, which we are less than 300 subscribers away, as soon as I hit 500 subscribers, I'll be able to start working on memberships and create special exclusive content for those of you who have supported me that way. But there are other ways to support me monetarily. There's the Patreon, there's donations to the stream, all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to sit here and beg you for money, but I know some people are very interested in helping that way, and it does mean the world when you guys do so. But right now, I need to go and grab myself a new keyboard before the store closes, so I'm going to get going. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys have had a great evening, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching this. I will see you all tomorrow, if everything goes well, approximately the same bat time of 4:30 Central, definitely the same bat channel. Have a good one.